means if I don't see you out there, I'll kill you myself.
Soldiers of the light, wielding all manner of elemental powers channeled through a force beyond the realms of reality. And the Tenno, children turned soldiers, their souls maintained and locked in everlasting service to the universe. Combine the two, and you get a force nigh unstoppable. Welcome all you beautiful ladies and animals, as today we follow up on the Tenno and Guardians, looking for exactly what would happen if they happened, looking for exactly what would happen, motherfucking piece of shit, who wrote this script, dude? Looking for exactly what would happen if they conjoined into a single faction of high-powered loot-seeking demigods, and what could stop them, if anything. If you haven't seen the episode before this, check it out. I went over the Warframes, Destiny's Guardians, and even Space Marines from Warhammer 40k, comparing them all to each other. Now, a lot of people said it was a cop-out that I speculated on how the Guardians and Tenno would join forces rather than fighting, and well, I mainly did that to show how these factions operate, but also I thought it was obvious. Off rip, we know what it takes to kill a Guardian, whereas we only have glimpses of what might maybe kill a Tenno. It's not something I felt like I needed to explain, but for the record, straight out, if they had to battle, I'd give it to the Tenno. But today, we're not here to rehash that. If you want the battles, go check out that first voyage, and subscribe to the channel so you're here for all future videos as well. But without further delay, let's examine these gods of avarice and see just what would happen if their powers combined. First up is whether or not a Guardian, someone blessed with the light and capable of harnessing the darkness, could manipulate the void, a transcendent plane of existence that runs parallel with reality akin to the ascendant plane in Destiny. A place made real by its connection to the darkness, carved out by these insane powers, intangibly connected to the fundamental building blocks of reality. But the void, while similar, is not one for one with the darkness. The darkness is the opposite of the light. It's a metaphysical insertion of will over the natural world, where the light is this incalculable power from outside the universe enforcing itself over it, going around the regular cause and effect of the realms, making it paracausal. The void is simply the void. It has no opposite, it has no equal, but it has a voice. The first scientists looked upon the great indifference with fear, and that fear was made manifest. The man in the wall, an eldritch god of time, unbound and of powers unknown. Through him and the acts of indifference is how the Tenno achieved their powers, being sapped in the void. Dampened by its influence, the children of an empire collapsing sent aboard a spaceship that would be lost in the void. Through this thing that saw them, the Tenno were given their powers, and through the Warframes, they could channel and control them until they learned later to master the same powers. If a Guardian wanted to use the void, they'd need to give a bit of them to it. But is that even possible? In essence, it would be like Guardians signing up to become taken, which we see that the Traveler will straight up destroy its own ghosts rather than letting them fall to the clutches of another entity, as that goes against the goals of the Traveler, of the Gardener. Life is a thing to be protected. The Guardian is that protection made manifest, weaponized. But life is not freely given. Life can still end, it can still be fraught with pain and suffering, because without that loss, without that pain, you end up with nothing but greed and hunger. An avarice for power unchecked by demigods who would never die, blandly standing in opposition to the natural flow of the galaxy forevermore. The Traveler, the light, would not want that. It could not allow that. And in that same way that no Guardian could absorb so much power of the light to restore their ghosts, or fall to the taken to be used as an endless machine of war, a Guardian absorbing the void to use as a weapon, especially as those linked to the void cannot be killed, instead being endlessly recycled through the many paradoxes that keep the Tenno alive is something that the Traveler could never stand for. Could a Guardian take on the powers of the Void? Sure, theoretically. We're talking space magic. The rules are not written and change from expansion to expansion as the writers figure it out. But would they? I don't think so. At least not while connected to the light. Guardians who have lost their connection like Osiris or Zavala? Possibly, yeah, they could. But they're not going to be double dipping into both overpowered wells at the same time. The demons of the light are powerful, but only so much, as the separation of powers is what keeps the universe in balance rather than trading one tyrant for another. Now into the inverse, can a Tenno, or even just an ordinary Warframe, come to the light? The Warframes are still people themselves. While heavily modified and mutated beyond recognition, they are still alive, living exosuits that the Tenno, the void-touched children, use to harness and channel their powers through. But not all frames have a Tenno to pilot them, and a good number are still capable of moving on their own, and of course, dying. While a Tenno guides the Warframe and the frame's own skills allow the Tenno to carry out their missions in the solar system, the Warframes are still individuals on their own. But to what extent is going to depend from frame to frame. Some seem to be little more than mindless animals moving on instinct and self-preservation alone without the guidance of the Tenno. Others are more independent, capable of tasks and even complex jobs on their own, depending on when in the timeline a Warframe was forged. Those that came later, towards the end of the Great War they were designed for, came out cleaner, more whole, at least in comparison to their elder brethren, whose humanity has been stripped out entirely. Could the less sapient of the Warframes become Guardians after death? Could any of them? It depends. As the Guardians are not chosen by the Traveler at random, nor by divine intervention, but rather by their ghost. And while they may disagree or hold contentions, each ghost contains the power to decide for themselves whether or not to revive their Guardian. Examples in the lore point to ghosts who thought they were reviving a member of the Fallen, struggling with the quandary before deciding to go through with it. The Hive ghosts, who were tricked into it, still chose and continued to revive Hive warriors from death. And older ghosts from the age before the Vanguard, when some of the earliest Guardians ruled Earth as savage warlords who slaughtered thousands with their newfound power. While most were dealt with by the Iron Lords like Saladin, some few others were just denied revival by their ghosts, who withheld the healing process from their masters. So in the end, it's up to a ghost whether or not they'll choose to revive a Guardian. Whether they're human, an alien, a warmonger, or a criminal. That choice falls upon the ghost. And what we've seen of the possible Guardians in Destiny, yes, the Warframes could be revived by a ghost and turned into a hyper-powered, also unkillable super soldier with powers not derived of the void, but of the light. Although I think without the calming effect of the Tenno, any light-touched Warframes would go down the path of warmongering lords, empowered by the light, or even end up getting corrupted by the darkness. A Guardian is already dangerous. Now turn them into a super soldier who can dodge bullets and fly around like a super sci-fi ninja, but now they can also thunder crash. But what of the Tenno, the void-touched children? Well, let me read out the Guardian's mantra given to us by the speaker of the Traveler. Devotion inspires bravery. Bravery inspires sacrifice. Sacrifice leads to death.
So, feel free to kill yourself.
One of the foundational things for Guardians is the death part. This is where the Traveler bestows them with selective amnesia to guise them into supporting the cause of the light, unburdened by any previously held convictions. Not only are the Tenno not dead, but it's like mathematically impossible for them to die. So while the Warframes on their own could die and hold the light, the Tenno could not. But they could still use transference, or the psychic meta-link that allows the Tenno to inhabit the Warframe's body and calm their mind, becoming a guardian enhanced by the void, going around the loopholes and forcing the connection to work. Now, could the ghost refuse to revive a Warframe for fear of its strength? Yes. Could it rationalize the control of the Tenno and decide it's for the greater good for both of them to work together? Also yes, but if they became too powerful, it may become the case that the Traveler personally steps in, taking away the light from this absolutely overpowered space ninja. But if they are allowed, you have one being that can control the light, solar, arc, and void, and is also connected to the void of Warframe, has the physical skill and ability of the frame itself, and with the Tenno leading charge, could even harness the abilities of the darkness in Stasis and Strand. Basically, the best of both worlds between the universes of Destiny and Warframe. A nigh unkillable, unstoppable, unrelenting force of positivity acting on the universe like a biblically accurate anime angel. There's a lot of different options to go from here, so I won't be breaking down the specifics, but if there's any Warframe/Destiny class combos you think would be exceptionally interesting or powerful to see, let me know down below. If combined, you've effectively just buffed up the Warframe side of the Tenno equation. Frames are already incredibly strong, but even within their own universe, still die from time to time. Now, with a ghost, we've just made that process even harder. So if to kill a Tenno you first need to take out their frame, now you need to kill the ghost, something that can only be done with the paracausal forces of light and darkness. Like a bullet empowered by the dark, fists empowered by the light, or the mastery of the dark by the witness. And only then, you've only killed a single frame and still have to deal with the Tenno, which, as I talked about in the previous episode, is practically impossible. As the Tenno are intrinsically linked to the void, the only way to get rid of them for good would be to kill the void, an entire dimension of reality. So at the scale of the beings we tend to see in Warframe and Destiny, there's no single entity that could kill one of these light-touched Warframes and their Tenno for good, even if they're cut off from the light. But as always, that's it for today, and let me know what you think of the collaboration between the light and the Tenno and what you think it would look like down below. Big thank you to all the members and patrons who help me continue to make new videos. If you're unaware, you can become a member for just $1 a month and get access to member-exclusive polls to vote for which videos come first, get videos early, and more behind the scenes. And go to the links below to grab some of my charity merch. 100% of the proceeds I make from this gets donated directly to my local food bank. As always, stay cool, have fun, and be awesome. Buster out.